if there is another talking point from, let's say, the Dismantling Global Hindutva Conference or the Western scholars when they generally describe Brahminism, is that they try to otherize the Dalit, Bahujan, and Adivasi, or what they call it as DBA communities, from the other Hindus. No, this is a very old colonial tactic. And is this really effective even today?
See, there is something. See, I don't have a fuller grip over what is happening because there are too many complicated things that are happening around. Now, there is one part. Now, this is largely the story of Hinduism and the caste system and a whole range of other themes which were built in 18th, 19th century predominantly has led to this. Now, because there assumes a religion, and religion seems to have marginalized so many things, and it must have produced certain blah, blah, blah characteristics. Now, therefore, one has to, there are some groups which are marginalized, therefore one has to revolutionarily, radically, align together and fight against this evil force called Brahmanism, whatever, abolish it and, take the power out of it, etc. Now, see, this is complicated story in the sense. Now, this entire identity movement in the name of Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, etc. If you take them, if it is not part of the European experience, by chance you take it is true and real in this world, who are Dalits? Now, nobody knows. Now, one could actually arbitrarily arrive at this idea that let's take scheduled caste and scheduled tribe as Dalits. Okay, that constitution has created something. There is a legal mechanism and let's call them. Now, then put a range of characteristic feature to say that the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe commonly suffer these many disadvantages. Now, if you say more than 70% of the jati had to be eliminated out of this list. Okay. For example, take criteria. For example, some groups are not allowed to enter the temple. Okay, some groups are not allowed to enter some main part of the village. There is no interdining with other jatis, etc. I mean, list 3-4 characters and take the scheduled list. Now, the same jati, for instance, will be southern part of the Karnataka, will not go to temple. When in the northern part of the Karnataka, they are part of the temple.
Right.
Okay, you cross 2 mountains, then you have a completely different kinds of participation. If you look at it, if the story would have been the overarching story, see, look at our caste legislation. For example, every state has a different list. Okay, if caste system is one unifying force overarching in India, then you should have a uniform list for the whole country, right?
Yes.
So caste system, so for example, X jati, you go to, Karnataka, Maharashtra border, or Karnataka, Andhra border. In Karnataka side, they belong to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe list, and in Andhra, they are in OBC list. Right? Therefore, caste system operates differently in different states, as though caste system recognizes different jatis, etc. Third, what the alleged disadvantages that you list out. As I told you, if you travel 100 kilometers, you the same community will not have the so-called disadvantage that they talk about. Therefore, one of the difficulties is that there are certain legitimate problems in our society in this world. But in order to address those legitimate concerns which are there in our society, now what we have tried doing is we have brought over this European story of the caste system. Now, if you remove them from this larger framework of the caste system and its oppression, Brahminical oppression, if you remove it, most of this problem could be locally addressed, locally dealt with. Right? And they don't have, for example, if you say caste system is something which is all India level, then you raise this question, who is implementing it? There has to be a person who created. Manu created? It's very difficult to say so. Though many people talk about Manuada, nobody knows what the hell the Manuada is.
Yes.
Yeah, nobody understands it. I don't know what of Manu said is part of the Manuada, that also is unclear. If you read Manusmriti, you wouldn't understand why these people are talking about Manu like this way.
Right.
Okay, so that's a different issue altogether. This is neither to defend nor to discard Manu. But the point is, Manuvada has nothing to, doesn't seem to have anything to do with Manu, even assuming that all that they're saying is correct. Now, if it has a bearing on our social existence, who actually implemented it? Because forget about Manusmriti being constitution of some Raja or the other. In fact, today's scholarship more or less agrees that it is not even possible to call Manu as a book of law. As earlier people used to use Manu as the lawgiver, you have extraordinarily mounting evidence today to say Manu is a book of law is a very difficult claim to make.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Now, if this were to be the case, how did Manu? 95% of the people didn't know. In fact, Manu became a very important character because of the British people.
Right.
Otherwise, there are very selected traditions who are interested in studying certain part of the Dharma Shastra. They were doing it. By and large, it had nothing to do with people. I mean, a large number of Brahmins didn't know Sanskrit, for instance, to take that as a serious charge. But anyway, for whatever reason, they built it, and there is a concocted story, which is part of the European experience, which created all kinds of groups. Take, for instance, who are these Bahujan? You don't know. What makes this foundation of Bahujan? Though there is claim, you can't explain it. Okay, who are these Adivasis? Now, let's say we will travel to Uttar Kannada district in Karnataka. Okay. There are people who are living in the hills. Who are those people? There are Nayakas, there are Siddhis,
Yes.
there are Havyaka Brahmana.
Yes.
So are Havyaka Brahmana Adivasi or not? You don't know. What makes somebody into Adivasi or not? What makes somebody into Girijana? You don't know. So you need to bring in a large number of colonial story, European experience in order to make this happen. As a consequence, now the only thing that could emerge is this anti-Brahmin hatred. Except for that, there is nothing. As a consequence, what do? You build weaker institutions.
Right.
Okay, you build institutions on hatred. I'm not talking about government institutions. How do you make your societies function? So what do? You spread venom in the society. You divide society. You actually, you use lies and falsity to actually harass a community. In fact, most of the claims that you have on Brahminism has nothing to do with Brahmin as they claim. And why is this anti-Brahmin attitude? Why should it be there? So there are much more to talk about, and a lot of things are politically incorrect, to be more precise. I don't care. I mean, even if they are politically correct, but something that we need to think about seriously. Therefore, what DBA movements can do, or the Ahinda kind of movements can do, is to break our society, which actually happily coexists. Right. We respect each other. We deal with each other. We know how to deal with differences which Western world does not know. West wants the homogeneous society. They have a problem with any other people. Even today, religious freedom is not ensured. As a consequence, what we have done, everything which is Indian, we are trying to attack. And in fact, the very state itself, now if you look at it, is biased against Hindus. Everything Hindu practice, you wanted to interfere. Courts, states, every damn thing they wanted to interfere. Therefore, our state, very nature, this is a colonial state. No, it's a Christian state. We have not actually transformed it.
Yes.
Which suits our land.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.